Hey guys, it's Jeremy here of Metal Music Meltdown, back with another video. I got something a little bit different for you guys today. I wanted to add some more series to my channel, some top 10 list, ranking of the albums, etc. And I wanted to start a series where every couple days or maybe once a week, I do a top 5 hard rock and metal albums of each year starting in 1970, kind of back where it all began with heavy metal, as we all know, and going from each year starting in 70 to 71, 72, etc., all the way up until 2021. So I'm going to go all the way back to 1970 where it all began and tell you my top 5 albums of that year. This is based on my personal preference. So if you guys like something different, it's perfectly fine. But please feel free to leave a comment down below what your top 5 would be from 1970. And if you're new to the channel, please give the video a thumbs up. It really helps the channel grow and get more exposure. And if you enjoyed the content, definitely hit that subscribe button and stay tuned for other years in this series, as well as some great reaction videos. And I also have a designated Freddie Fridays. Every week I do a Queen video, which I love. But yeah, if you're new to the channel, hit that subscribe button and stick around for some great content. Okay, let's jump right into the list, guys. So number 5, I have the debut album from Uriah Heep. Overseas, it was entitled Very Heavy, Very Humble, but I think the US release was just a self-titled, entitled Uriah Heep. With songs like Gypsy and some other great tracks on this album. I love it, the debut. It's kind of a mix of metal and progressive rock blend. I always love their sound. Most of their discography is pretty solid. There's a few weak albums here and there, but I always enjoyed this debut. It's a really solid album. At number 4, I have the mighty Led Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin 3. It's their third album, obviously. I always loved Led Zeppelin. It's one of my favorite rock bands of all time. They're not really considered metal, but they're definitely one of the proto-metal bands who kind of started the heavier sound and adding a more metallic sound to their music. And with songs like Immigrant Song, Celebration Days, just some great songs on this album. I still listen to it quite a bit to this day with that classic lineup. Robert Plant was so charismatic and such a great frontman, and he would become a prototype of, a future metal frontman to what was to come. And yeah, that lineup is not interchangeable with Jimmy Page. All the great guys in that band are just incredible. And I'm a huge Led Zeppelin fan. This album had to be in my top 5. Number 3, I have Deep Purple in Rock. This is my all-time favorite Deep Purple album, along with many other people, I'm sure. To me, it's their best album of all time, with songs like Child in Time, Speed King. It's such an incredible album with Ritchie Blackmore on guitar, and the Mach 2 lineup, I think, on this one would be, it's their 4th studio album. In my opinion, it's their best album in their whole discography, and they have such a long history. Even their more recent albums are really good, but I love this album. It's always been my favorite of theirs, and it had to be in my list. And obviously, guys, you can probably tell what number 1 and 2 are. It was the godfathers of heavy metal, Black Sabbath. Fucking love Sabbath, all the different eras of Sabbath, but where it all began with Ozzy, Geezer Butler, Ward on drums, and of course the mighty Tony Iommi, who pretty much wrote every riff in metal known to man. He was essentially the riff master, one of the greatest heavy metal guitarists of all time. And I decided to put the debut album at number 2. It's just so heavy, and there was nothing else like it at the time. It had a really doomy sound, and you could argue this was the first doom metal album, as well as not even just heavy metal. It had a very down-toned guitar. They used that tritone sound, of course. They sounded really evil, and I couldn't imagine how people reacted to this back in 1970. But even to this day, it still holds up, and it's a great song, a great album, with songs like the debut track, Black Sabbath, is iconic, and it has other great songs like NIB and The Wizard, of course, Evil Woman. Just some great tracks on this song. And of course, number 1, guys, before I get into that, just some honorable mentions. One band that kind of sneaked out my list would be number 6, would be King Crimson. Had 2 albums that year. I love King Crimson, and their early stuff is really great. And UFO had a record out this year. Alice Cooper had a record out this year. MC5. Just some great bands had some albums out this year. I was kind of looking at it earlier. King Crimson, the Guess Who had American Woman that year, and Steppenwolf had a record that year. Lucifer's Friend was a big one as well that just kind of snuck up my list. Blue Cheer, just some great stuff. And on top of that, when I was kind of digging into this year, there's three iconic bands I think that's kind of formed this year as well. Queen was a big one for me. They formed in 1970, as well as Aerosmith. And there's one other band. Oh, Heart. Heart was the other one that formed in 1970 as well. This was a big year for music and what was to come. And my number one, guys, of course, is Black Sabbath Paranoid. I put this ahead of the debut just because it has more of the hits and iconic songs. You know, Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs, Fairies Wear Boots. It's just a top to bottom, like a greatest hits album. I don't care how many times I hear these songs, I never get sick of them. And War Pigs is such an iconic song. So, along with Paranoid, it was their first radio hit. And but War Pigs has always been one of my favorite songs by them. So yeah, that's my number one, Black Sabbath with Paranoid. So guys, down below, please leave your comments of what your top 5 would be for 1970. And again, if you like the video and you want to come back and discuss all things metal and move on to 1971, please subscribe to the channel and give it a thumbs up. And stay tuned for the next year, 1971. It'll be within the next week. And also stay tuned for other great reaction videos and other great metal content. Until next time, guys, keep it metal.